Te Dakota, Tefano, Oa, Aotearoa, Unitarians. Te Dakota, na manahiri, no mai, hire mai, ki tene whare karakia, ate atua. And while I can't hear you, you can all say kia ora.
Europe.
Welcome to you all, our extended Zoom whānau. For 119 years, Auckland Unitarians have sought to build a hospitable and generous community, passionately committed to justice, seeking truth, with humility and honesty, sprinkled abundantly with forgiveness and compassion. It has been a long, often difficult journey, and we know not when we may arrive or even how we will know. Yet we keep taking another step in what we hope is the right direction. This morning, we'll challenge our tendency to believe everything we think. To kick things off, I offer this meditation by Maureen Killoran. She entitles it The Folded Lie, and she begins with an excerpt from a W.H. Auden poem. All I have is a voice to undo the folded lie. One of the fads that swept my school, she says, when I was in fourth grade was a simple type of origami we called cootie catchers. Remember the cootie catchers? The purpose of which was to predict your future, 97% guaranteed. A series of banal choices, do you like chocolate or vanilla, 2 or 12, caused the folds of this intricate creation to shift, and tensions mounted until finally the heart of the matter was revealed. You will be happy forever. Expect a big surprise, or ominously, you will have 17 kids and die young. These days, cootie catchers have been commodified. I didn't know this. For a small sum, you can purchase a template that will deepen your spirituality or help you win the favor of your latest crush. Some will purportedly help you perform random acts of kindness. And one even promises to be an ersatz Harry Potter sorting hat. Back in the day, though, the cootie catcher was simply a cheap and easy game. We knew there was no truth in it, which by definition made it a gentle but shared lie. So why was that? As we folded and chose our way through the layers, a quasi-magical power sometimes grabbed us. Even though we knew better, there was that almost wished that maybe this time the game would yield a happy surprise. Except not in this post-playground world. We've learned to our peril that the folded lies are serious and their outcomes seldom bring happy surprises. We learned that lies have consequences. Life is not a no-fault game. What if the poet is right and our voices really are all we have? We have choices, of course, but only one path is morally acceptable. For we are the grown-ups, and life is neither a playground nor a game. The folded lies are real. With our voices, we can and will undo them. And she ends with this prayer: Spirit of deep hope and love, I ache to live the faith I claim to believe. I ask for courage to be fully present in these chaotic days. I ask for wisdom that my voice may be an agent of resistance and my words add strength for those whose pain has been so long denied. In the name of all that is holy, this I pray. Amen. If you have a chalice or a candle you tend to light, this is the time. Divine spark from sacred dark, symbol of our holy intent, illuminate this hour. Well, you're already on mute, but so we will let you sing your heart out to another version of Spirit of Life I've recently found. Also, if we were a church, we'd take a collection now, but we'll still listen to singing. And it's a song that has been played several times in the last few weeks. I have to keep finding new versions of it, but it still fits to some degree the theme of the day. So the song is "We Would Be One," hymn 318. To prep you for my musings, I want to show you a video, and I've entitled it 10 Ways to Fool the Brain. Optical illusions are fun, in part because they are universal as far as I know. The word illusion comes from the Latin word illudere, meaning to mock. These illusions trick our brains into perceiving something different from physical reality. Three common ones are illusory motion, images that appear to be moving, double pictures, images that contain two pictures in one, and impossible objects, images that make sense when drawn on paper, but which could never exist in reality. Since everybody's brain is fooled by them, even when we understand why they are fooling us, we don't mind being mocked. So everyone who has tried to make sense of an Escher drawing gets this joke. But there are other ways the brain is fooled to think something is reality when it isn't, that aren't so humorous. These are called cognitive biases, errors, or distortions. While we are universally capable of making them, we aren't equally susceptible to the same ones as we seek to understand the reality we find ourselves. Nevertheless, it is entirely likely there are times we will all be equally wrong for different reasons. Cognitive scientists, logicians, and behavioral economists have only recently begun to sort out and name these cognitive errors, and disputes about them are common. But unavoidable mistakes have been demonstrated in test after test and given names like anchor bias. You want to stick to your first estimate or to what you have been told, or ease of representation. You think an explanation you can understand is more likely to be true than one you can't. On and on it goes. Online, there's a circular graphic display of cognitive errors. And if you hang on a minute, I'll show it to you. Now, I don't expect you to read all these, but you can quickly grasp that there are a lot of them. And if you get when this talk is put online, the link to it will also be put online, and you can look at it more closely. The hundreds of errors are grouped by situations we find ourselves in. When we have too much information to process, we notice things already primed in our memory or repeated often. The sun rises, not the earth turns. Or we find bizarre and funny things stick out more than mundane and unfunny things. Or we are drawn to details that confirm our own existing beliefs. God exists, God does not exist. Perhaps most common is that we notice flaws in others more easily than we notice flaws in ourselves. The situation where we are susceptible to the most cognitive errors is when there's not enough information to interpret reliably. Then we tend to find stories and patterns, even when looking at sparse data. The Bible tells me God created man in his own image. Or we would fill in the blank space from stereotypes, generalities, and prior histories. A rough sleeper is lazy and deserves his circumstances. We imagine things and people we're familiar with or fond of as better than others. White people are the smartest race. It gets worse. We simplify probabilities and numbers to make them easier to think about. We presume to think we know what other people are thinking. Lastly, we project our current mindset and assumptions on the past and future. The hundreds of errors these situations invite are exacerbated when we have to act fast and then remember what we did and what was important. The graphic itself is a funny example of a cognitive error. Unwarranted overconfidence, in that it pretends to know how we think and what would be normal. As with perceptual illusions, knowing that cognitive errors exist doesn't help us to avoid them when presented with a new problem. On the contrary, these errors stay very consistent in that they are committed by everyone tested, tend toward the same direction of error, are independent of personal factors of the test takers, and are incorrigible in that knowing about them doesn't help us avoid them, nor to distrust our reasoning in other situations. We are always more confident of our reasoning than we should be. Indeed, overconfidence is one of the most common illusions we experience. No doubt this analysis is yet another example. Do we really know any of this? Oh dear. What do these recent discoveries in cognitive science mean? Some say they just mean humans are poor at statistics. Others assert they are as important a discovery It's the discovery of the subconscious. Kim Stanley Robinson says this: consider the nature of ideology, that necessary thing which allows us to sort out the massive influx of information we experience. Could ideology also be a cognitive illusion, a kind of necessary fiction? Yes, of course. We have to create and employ an ideology to be able to function. And we do that work by way of thinking that is prone, by thinking that is prone to any number of systemic, and one might say even factual errors. We have never been rational. Maybe science itself is an attempt to be rational. Maybe philosophy too. And of course, philosophy is very often proving we can't think to the bottom of things, can't get logic to work as a closed system. And remember also that in all of this discussion so far, we are referring to the normal mind, the sane mind. What happens when, starting as we do from such a shaky original position, sanity is lost? Enough now to say just this: it can get very bad. How bad? Eliezer Yudkowsky posits that, all else being equal, not many people would prefer to destroy the world. Even faceless corporations, meddling governments, reckless scientists, and other agents of doom require a world in which to achieve their goals of profit, order, tenure, or other villainies. If our extinction proceeds slowly enough to allow a moment of horrified realization, the doers of the deed will likely be quite taken aback on realizing that they have actually destroyed the world. Therefore, he concludes, I suggest that if the world is destroyed, it will probably be by mistake. One cognitive error that may bring us closer to that end than is comfortable to contemplate is teleological thinking. It is not uncommon to hear someone espouse the idea that everything happens for a reason, or that something that happened was meant to be. Now, researchers have found that this kind of teleological thinking is linked to seemingly unrelated beliefs. Creationism, the belief that life on Earth was purposely created by a super agent, and conspiracism, the tendency to explain historical or current events in terms of conspiracy theories. Sebastian Diguez of the University of Freiburg writes, although very different at first glance, both these belief systems are associated with a single and powerful cognitive bias named teleological thinking, which entails the perception of final causes and overriding purpose in naturally occurring events and entities. A teleological thinker, for example, will accept as true propositions such as the sun rises in order to give us light, or the purpose of bees is to ensure pollination. He says this type of thinking is an anathema to scientific reasoning, and especially to evolutionary theory, and was famously mocked by Voltaire, whose character Pangloss believed that noses were made to wear spectacles. Yet, it is very resilient in human cognition. And we show that it's linked not only to creationism, but also to conspiracism. The researchers hope that their findings may help in formulating policies that discourage the endorsement of socially debilitating and sometimes dangerous beliefs and belief systems in a post-truth era. Over the next year, I'm committing myself to joining them in their efforts. I will be seeking opportunities to explore and consider our actions as we counter those who would deny climate change, calling it a hoax. In my mind, it is the most likely way we will destroy the planet by mistake. T.S. Eliot suggested that the way the world ends is not with a bang, but a whimper. While not ideal, it's considerably more preferable than with oops. I'm going to now break you into discussion groups. Not sure how many we have. Oh, good turnout. And the questions are these. How do you know what you know with certainty? How do you know what you know with certainty? Related is, how do you know when your brain is mocking you? How do you know when your brain is mocking you? With all those great thoughts in mind, let me just share a closing hymn, and then if there are any, and extinguish the chalice, and if there are any notices, and then we'll have our closing words. So let me extinguish our flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. For closing words, I offer you these. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May you go forth in peace. So if you all want to chat, I'll leave this open for a while. And, if you put yourself on gallery view, you can see who's still hanging around. And to those who need to move on, thank you for being here and hope to see you next week, either in church or at home.